Have you ever stopped to think about how a website knows it's you, even after you close a tab and come back later? Well, that sense of trust is pretty much the backbone of the internet. But what if? What if that trust could be turned against you, used to pull off a silent digital heist while you're just, browsing the web? Let's dive in and see exactly how this whole thing is pulled off.
I know, it sounds completely absurd, right? But the vulnerability we're going to talk about today makes a scenario just like that disturbingly possible. We're going to break down exactly how one seemingly innocent click can be twisted to perform actions on your behalf without you ever having a clue. So picture this. You're doing some online banking. You've logged in, you're checking your balance, maybe you're about to pay a bill, you're in. Your session is active, and the bank's server totally trusts your browser. Everything feels secure, just like it should. Then, in another tab, maybe a friend sends you a link. You click it. It's just a silly website with a picture of a cat on it. Looks completely harmless. So you've got your bank in one tab and a cat picture in another. What could possibly go wrong? Well, this is exactly where the heist begins.
Okay, to really get the trick here, we first need to understand the bit of magic that keeps you logged into websites in the first place. It all comes down to something called session management, and it relies on what you can think of as a digital key. So, every time you log into a site like your bank, you're basically telling their web application, hey, it's me, for real. You're proving your identity to a server that, up until that very moment, has absolutely no idea who you are. And you do this by sending over your credentials, your username and password. Your browser just bundles them up and shoots them across the internet, knocking on the bank's server's digital door and asking to be let in. This is step one of the handshake. Now, once the server checks your credentials and sees they're correct, it doesn't just say, okay, you're in. It sends something back, a special little piece of data called a session cookie. The best way to think about this is like a temporary, unique digital key, or maybe a backstage pass that's only good for this one visit. And here is the absolutely crucial part. Your browser holds on to this cookie, this digital key, and from now on, it automatically includes it with every single request it sends back to that website. That's how you can click from page to page without logging in over and over again. The server sees the key and just says, I know you, come on in. So you've got this trusted digital key that your browser is sending automatically without you even thinking about it. Well, that convenience is precisely what an attacker is planning to exploit. Their whole goal is to forge a request that your browser will willingly and unknowingly send for them. And this brings us to the official name for this heist, Cross-Site Request Forgery, or CSRF. It's an attack that tricks a logged-in user's browser into sending a forged request to a website. The most important words there are unintentional action. See, the really scary part is that from the website's point of view, you are the one doing it. So get this, the attacker doesn't need your password. They don't need to steal your cookie. All they need to do is trick your browser, which already has that trusted cookie, into sending a command to the bank for them. They're essentially turning you into an unwitting accomplice in your own robbery. And this shows the deception perfectly. On the right is what you see, that harmless Hello World page, or, the cat picture. But hidden in that page's code over on the left is a malicious instruction. In this case, it's an image tag. But its source is actually a command telling your bank to change your email address to the attacker's email. Your browser, just trying to load the image, sends that command, and it helpfully includes your session cookie right along with it. Now, for this digital heist to actually work, a few things have to line up just right. First, there has to be a valuable action to perform, something like changing an email or transferring funds. Second, the website has to be using those session cookies, our digital key. And finally, the command itself has to be predictable, with no random or secret parts that the attacker can't just guess. So, what's the big deal? What actually happens when this attack succeeds? Well, the impact can be pretty huge, ranging from a simple annoyance all the way to major financial loss or having your data stolen. It's a silent crime, but it has a very real victim. From the bank's perspective, everything looks totally legit. A request came in from your browser, it had your valid session cookie attached, and it asked to change your email. The server has no reason to be suspicious. It just processes the request and boom, the attacker now controls your account's email and you're locked out. The heist is complete. And please, don't think this is some obscure minor league threat. For years, the Open Web Application Security Project, or OWASP, consistently ranked CSRF right up there on its critical top 10 list of security risks. That tells you just how common and dangerous this vulnerability has been for a long, long time. Okay, so the threat is definitely real. But the good news is that there are powerful, well-known ways to secure the vaults and stop this digital heist cold. Let's take a look at how developers can build a much stronger defense. The main line of defense is something called a CSRF token. The easiest way to think of this is like a secret handshake. The server gives your browser a unique, totally unpredictable token. Then, for any important action like transferring money, your browser has to send that secret token back. An attacker on their malicious website has absolutely no way of knowing what the secret token is, so any request they forge will be missing it. The server sees the missing token and just rejects the request flat out. So CSRF tokens are really the gold standard for stopping these attacks. But, modern web security is all about having layers of defense. And another really powerful layer involves telling the browser itself to be way more careful with that digital key, using a feature called same-site cookies. Think of it this way. Tokens are the server checking your ID, while same-site cookies are the browser refusing to show your ID to a stranger in the first place. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, can't the bank just check which website the request came from? It's a great question. Well, browsers do send this info in something called a refer header. Relying on it for security is a total trap. That header can be easily faked by an attacker, or sometimes it's just missing for privacy reasons, making it way too unreliable to trust. And that's exactly where same-site cookies come in. They add a simple rule to the cookie itself, basically telling the browser, hey, do not send me along with requests that come from other websites. So if the bank sets its session cookie to same site, your browser simply won't include it when it tries to load that malicious image from the attacker's cat picture page. The forged request arrives at the bank without its key, and it fails. Simple as that. Thankfully, modern tools and browser standards like same-site cookies have made these CSRF attacks much, much harder to pull off against major sites like your bank. But the underlying principle is still out there. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. As you're browsing the web, hopping from tab to tab, just how many other sites are you logged into right now? And how confident are you that every single one of them